City podcast.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Another edition of Keys to the City. I'm your host, Trevor Keys, alongside the big brother, T3 Ted Keys. You can check out Keys to the City at Facebook.com, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and many more social media platforms, as well as CloverCrestMedia.com. Ted, week one is officially in the books, and which started this whole NFL season in dominating fashion, ends week one in very, very suspicious minds, suspicious ways, whatever you want to say, after last night's Monday night debacle from not the Seattle Seahawks, Ted, but the Denver Broncos, led by new first-year head coach Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson. So, Ted, we'll get into it in a few minutes of the playoff teams that struggled this week, and which was the most surprising to you. Maybe it's the Tennessee Titans, who, our New York Giants for the first time in 2016, are 1-0. So we will get into the New York Giants more, maybe in the show or later in the week. But Ted, we got to talk about last night. The Denver Broncos, all we've been hearing from the past 6 years since Peyton Manning retired and winning Super Bowl 50 is they were a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl caliber team. Well, they went out and got the biggest guy maybe on the market available at the time on the market, in Russell Wilson. They give him a huge extension. They're going all in, especially with the way this AFC West division is playing out with the moves that were made in this past offseason. So they go out and get Russell Wilson. They sign him to a mega 5-year, $242 million extension. It actually is $256, 161 of it guaranteed. So, Ted, it's very simple. What the hell was the Denver Broncos thinking last night? I'm glad we waited, because yesterday you wanted to do something on yesterday's show, but thank God we waited because of stuff and situations like last night. Nathaniel Hackett wasting almost 40 seconds on the clock and then calling a timeout, then proceeding to decide to go for a 64-yard field goal with Brandon McManus. By the way, kickers are 2 and 41 on field goal attempts of 64-plus yards since 1960. So, Ted, what the hell was the Denver Broncos thinking?
I have no idea, bro. I have no idea. I was wondering while we were watching the game, it was the most baffling last couple minutes of the game. I mean, listen, it's just the whole game, they look ill-prepared for the game. They have three or four red zone opportunities, 0 points, fumbling. The one where Javonte Williams fumbles, they were in a rush job. I don't understand why Russ didn't call a timeout. They looked ill-prepared. They looked like a new team. They really did. They looked like a new coach, new team, looked like a rookie quarterback. They did not look – I mean, we're not going to get into all the games, but they didn't look like some of the teams that we had expected. I'll tell you one thing. They're going to look back at the end of the season and say, man, we missed the playoffs, and it's going to go back to a game like that. Like, I mean, Booger said last night he had 17-14. But I have no idea what the hell they were doing last night. You pay a guy $256 million for one reason. You put the ball in his damn hands. Like, I understand if this is Daniel Jones. I understand if this is Carson Wentz. I understand if this is some of the lower caliber. But, like, Tom Brady, they're going for it. Herbert.
Any of the big name quarterbacks, any of those franchise caliber quarterbacks.
Listen, I think Minnesota goes for it with Kirk Cousins.
Well, definitely now with this new look team.
Matt Ryan, I mean, here's the thing. You also have to have a kicker that can kick at 64 yards, so that's another question. But, I mean, the only guy I'd probably trust is Justin Tucker in that situation.
Yeah, but, Ted, I'm funny you said that, because I was looking Aaron Schatz's Twitter from Football Outsiders Win Probability Calculator. If they passed the ball on 4th and 5, they had a 36% chance of winning the game. The field goal, they had a 7.4% chance of winning the game. So almost 30% difference.
40 seconds, like you were talking about before. They wasted 40 seconds to call timeout to kick a field goal. Uh-huh. I mean, I get it. You want to try to waste as much time to kick the field goal so they don't have much time left. But listen, everyone is on the same page with us. Mm-hmm. I mean, Marcus Spears was losing it. I mean,
it just doesn't make any sense.
There's a meme where Peyton's like this for 30 seconds going, timeout, take a timeout. Eli, they should take a timeout.
It really doesn't make any sense when, like you said, Ted, you go out and get this guy. You trade everything for him, all your assets, to go get a quarterback that you feel is a missing piece. Okay. He played a solid game. That team is going to have to figure it out. I'm not very high on this Denver Bronco team. I feel like this is the team that's going to miss the playoffs. And maybe it's because they didn't play any preseason. And maybe that's a whole nother story that these teams maybe should start playing a little preseason to get that chemistry going, because the chemistry fell off all around offensively with that team. But Ted, you said it. They go out and sign this guy. They trade for him. Then they sign him to a mega deal. And then you decide to kick the ball on it's not like it's a 50-yard field goal. We're talking about a 60-yard field goal.
That's what I was saying.
64-yard field goal.
57 yards, 55 yards. Okay, I have a little bit more understanding. 64-yard field. Here's the perfect example. The Giants went for it down 21 or 20 down 2019 when they didn't have to. They went for it. You have Russell Wilson. You go for it, bro. Like, you go for this. Like, it's not even a question. I would have rather, as a Denver Bronco fan, lose right there on 4th and 5 and not go for it. And here's the other thing. Call the time. If you don't call the time. Here's the thing. He's an offensive coordinator. He's never been a head coach. And he was calling the plays last night. But as an offensive coordinator, you're supposed to think ahead. When it's 3rd and 14, you should already be thinking about, we're probably going to come up short, because we're not going to get the 14 yards. What is our next play? Because if they go up and hurry up run a play on 4th down, even if they don't get it, they had all 3 timeouts, Trev. So you could have still played the game.
Yep.
All right, we got the timeout. Or you could have punted if you really wanted to, but you're not going to punt. But you have to think ahead. He was so unprepared for the situation. His pants were down. He got caught with his pants down. It's a good win for Seattle, bad win for Denver. A baffling last couple minutes of the game. Seattle defense looked good. Russ, did.
I don't want to take away from Seattle. I don't want to take away from Seattle at all, because they played their game. They played a solid game. Geno Smith, 23 of 28, 82% completion percentage, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Looked great. Probably one of his better games of his entire career. But Denver, they outgained him by almost 200 yards. We just saw this on Thursday night, where a team just outgained another team by 200 plus yards. And they won by 21 plus. There was no reason why the Denver Broncos, yes, maybe they win that game, but with the way that they handled the 2-minute offense, the late game situations, they were god awful. They look like a rookie type team, a team that has never been together. And I get it. It's the first game. All together, hostile environment. I get it. But maybe you should have played these guys in the preseason. Maybe you should just get the juices flowing. Get that chemistry going, because that's an important thing. And I feel like, I know you get these great quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and all this. Oh, they'll be fine. Well, it really showed this past weekend that those teams that didn't play, like, I give credit to teams like even the Patriots back in the day, or the Buccaneers or the Saints, playing their starters in situations in preseason just to get it going, just to get that chemistry back, because you're gone for such a long period of time. And especially the Denver Broncos now, you don't have a Teddy Bridgewater. You don't have a Drew Lock under center now. You're going to have a future Hall of Famer and Russell Wilson as your quarterback. You got to get it all correct. You got to get it all figured out. They were sloppy penalties. They were very, very sloppy as a team last night.
Even Pete Carroll, the opposing coach, was surprised they kicked the field goal. That's all.
It just does. Like, I literally was texting. It was like, why? What was going through the head of Nathaniel Hackett?
Yeah, I'm reading the ESPN thing. The coach said they were at the range for McManus. Of course, Russ Wilson being the baby, or I'm trying to use like a better word.
Mr. Nice Guy. He
is. Look at him. But he's like, it was the right decision. We have one of the best kickers. Stop, bro. You don't have one of the best kickers. You have a good kicker in the league. Justin Tucker's the best kicker in the league. Stop with that nonsense. I also take Buttaker from Kansas City. All right, over McManus. McManus has a strong string leg, but if you go back and look at his history, he's had multiple misses, especially on extra points. That's one thing he does miss. And I get it. He had the practice kick beforehand and missed it. I don't like the decision. I mean, I have Russell Wilson. I don't have a rookie quarterback. I have weapons on the outside. 4th and 5. Come up with a play. Be more prepared for the situation. He was ill prepared for the situation, and it showed. He looked like a first-time coach. And do you realize he was the only first coach of the weekend, rookie coach, to lose this weekend? Every other rookie coach won this weekend.
Interesting. I mean, that was a team. This is a team that's a Super Bowl caliber team. A lot of people have high expectations for this team coming in. And last night, the chemistry, the immaturity, the sloppiness, it just really showed from this team. And with a team that's led by Russell Wilson, to give him the extension, like I said, week 1 started with a dominating performance from the Buffalo Bills and beating the champs 31-10 and ends with complete suspicion. It doesn't make any sense. Just questionable decisions on the Denver Broncos' part in that late game. So Ted, let's get over to this and close out with today. There was a lot of fantastic games, 1:00 games. I mean, maybe the game of the year already in Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh. But you also had, kind of like college football, a lot of surprising games in the sense of defeats by some playoff caliber teams of last year. I'm talking about the Green Bay Packers, the Tennessee Titans.
I'm not surprised by that game.
The Cincinnati Bengals, the San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys. I know they played the Buccaneers, but all these teams that were playoff teams last year, the Patriots, all looked very sloppy and just did not look impressive to me at all. So, Ted, to you, when you see all these upsets and these games and the way the results became, which playoff team loss from last year was the most surprising from this weekend to you?
The Rams. And it's not the loss, it's how they performed. They got smoked, bro. We talked about it. It could have been 41-10. We talked about this. I'm not surprised by the Cincinnati loss. First of all, we all have to understand, it's week 1, bro. All right, the Saints went in and dominated the Green Bay Packers last year. Dominated them. All right, and then they ended up winning the NFC North and having the number 1 seed. I'm not worried about the Green Bay Packers right yet. Minnesota always seems to play Green Bay well. That's their kryptonite. Kirk Cousins plays Aaron Rodgers. Go back. Look at the stats. Justin Jefferson's a beast, all right? Adam Thielen. They have people. I was talking to you about them, and also I think they could be a surprise team and a playoff team. They have all the weapons. Dalvin Cook, Madison, Irv Smith. They got weapons. Kirk Cousins is the liability. Offensive line should be better. Their defense dominated Green Bay. But I'm not surprised by that. Home game, Green Bay, rivalry. Not surprised by that whatsoever. Steelers, Cincinnati, not surprised at all. Not surprised. A little hangover. Burrow didn't play well. Trubisky, they ran the ball well. Steelers' defense was dominant. Those are I'm not surprised by. I'm not surprised by. Interdivisional games, I'm never surprised by. You know, I'm not surprised by because those games take a whole different meaning than just the Giants playing the Titans or the Lions playing the Eagles. It's a different meaning. Didn't think Dallas was going to win. Knew Dallas wasn't going to win.
Yeah, but with the way they played.
Trev,
I'm talking about.
Trev, they stink.
I get it, but this is like still.
Zeke can't run the ball, even though he had 10 carries for 52 yards. But they said everything's going to run through Zeke. Didn't run the ball. They didn't continue to run the ball. Dak stunk. They have no weapons. We're trying to pretend like Dallas is good. Dallas stinks. If I could use another word, I would, but they stink. They are not a good football team. They are not a good football team. And they're going to be another bad football team, and they're not going to make the playoffs this year. They're not. They stink. All right? I'm not. Maybe a little surprised in San Francisco, but then when you texted me beforehand and said, did you see the weather in Chicago? I'm like, what? I didn't know they were playing in a monsoon. So when that happens,
no excuse.
It's all ball games. Ball game is open. And they couldn't run the ball that day. It's hard to run the ball when you have 7 inches of rain on the – all right? You couldn't run. They could not run the football. They didn't have their best tight end and blocking tight end. Kittle wasn't playing. They just didn't look smooth. Not surprised a little bit. I picked San Francisco to win, obviously, because we think the Bears are going to – but tell me in a mud storm or in a snowstorm who's going to win. You don't know.
I'm going to say the most surprising to me.
Outplayed Trey Lance. They scored 2 touchdowns. I mean, it wasn't pretty. Chicago didn't play pretty. But I think the
most surprising loss is the San Francisco 49ers. And yes, we can say it. We talked about this all year. The question.
Yeah, because there was an expectation. But Trev, there was a monsoon, bro.
So?
Trev, they couldn't run the ball. That's what they do. Everything stemmed from the running the football. Can't run the ball. They're not going to throw the ball. How are you going to throw the ball in that weather? How are you throwing the ball?
I don't know. Ask Justin Fields.
What he didn't throw the ball.
Ask Justin Fields. I know he had 121 yards and it wasn't the prettiest, but he still
had 121 yards on that one pass.
And what did Trey Lance have?
It wasn't raining.
What did Trey Lance do to make you say anything? Sure. If you're a great quarterback, that
was a sloppy,
I know it's his first game, and I get it. No,
not a great quarterback. That was a sloppy game. Anyone can win. Justin Fields had that one touchdown where he
had 2 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns.
He was running for his life.
He had 2 touchdowns. Okay. And the Chicago Bears have no reason to be in the same court,
And guess
same
what?
floor, same field,
But
same
they're not-
anything, same. I don't care. They're
But
not
it's week
supposed.
one. Week
They're
one
not
is
supposed to be on the same field as
yeah,
the
but
San
it's week
Francisco.
one. Anything can happen week one, bro.
Okay, I get it, but
No,
still,
you know what should be more surprising? And I didn't even think about it, thought about it? The Colts. That's what it should be.
I'm not because Matt Ryan is Matt Ryan. I'm sorry for everybody.
Yeah, the defense though, they were down by like 17 points.
I don't care about this whole Matt Ryan experiment because he's going to be just another Phillip Rivers and nothing's going to happen with the Colts. They'll be getting to the playoffs and they'll be one and done because they want to throw the ball 50 times because we think Matt Ryan is 2016 Matt Ryan. Get a grip with yourselves, people. There's a reason why Matt Ryan has slowly declined for years. I don't care about his stats. I don't care about that. I know his team wasn't good in Atlanta, but Matt Ryan is who he is. That's all he is. He's 2016. If you want that, then go back and watch the tape. Go watch the tapes. Go watch the flashbacks on NFL Network because that's the Matt Ryan you're going to get. You're not getting him from 6 years ago. Okay, I'm sick of this whole Matt Ryan narrative. He's not a good quarterback. He's not good enough to win you anything. Okay, I mean, good for them that they almost had a chance to come back. Me, San Fran, I've been very high on San Fran. There's a reason why I've been saying Jimmy G is still there. Because if Trey Lance, again, has another struggling performance this week, then what are we going to say? What are we going to say now? Because I'm sick of the excuses. I get it was a monsoon, but Justin Fields was the better quarterback on that field the other night. He was the better quarterback that night. I don't care if he had 121 yards and that team didn't look that great overall. He found a way to win. That defense found a way to win. We've been talking about the San Francisco 49ers as one of the more complete teams of the entire NFL. They didn't look anything like.
Yeah, but you could say that about last night's game.
Who, Denver?
Denver and Seattle. But you're going to look back at the end of the season, and Denver and Seattle are going to have a combined 6 wins, and you're going to be like, Trev, it happens. Week one is like I'm not high on Denver though. That's the thing. Week one is you got to take everything out of account when you go to week one because you don't know anything in week one. Week one is not the real ball game.
I get it. It was just very sloppy.
It's preseason game number 4. Most of the guys, like you said, have not played through preseason. So a lot of those guys are first time on the field. It's a rivalry game. There's different things. I mean, the Seattle game last night, that Seattle team looked like one of the worst teams in football. They didn't look like it last night. I mean, do you realize Dallas is the only team this week that did not score an offensive touchdown? So all I'm saying is I still think Denver and oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. San Francisco will be fine. I still think Denver has an opportunity to make the playoffs, but I think San Francisco will be fine at the end of the day. I think
San Fran's going to be fine too. That doesn't mean that doesn't add to Trey Lance though. That could be Jimmy G.
You can't bench him. You can't bench him. Because you can't play with Trev. You didn't give up 3 first-round picks and you didn't play the wish.
I get it, but if there's no progress,
Trev, the only way he gets benched is if it's something where they're like 1-5 or he's
okay, but if there's no progress and they're winning not because of him,
Trev, they're used to it. They haven't been winning for the last 3 years without Jimmy G. The only reason why they were in the position the past couple of years is because their defensive running game, not Jimmy G. The year they made the Super Bowl, what did he throw? 8 passes in the first game, like
that's
12
one
in the
game.
second. Okay, second game he threw like 15. Last year they didn't beat Dallas because of him.
I tell you what, they got into the playoffs. They got into the playoffs because of him.
Chev, San Francisco has won the past 3 seasons despite Jimmy G.
Ted,
he almost blew this Dallas game.
I'm not saying that Jimmy G is a top 10 quarterback. I'm not
saying any of that. They are used to bad games from quarterbacks. So as long as Trey Lance can fit more games of good than bad, they will keep him and they'll be used to it because they've been used to it. You're used to it. You're used to bad games. Jimmy G wins. They win in spite of him, bro.
But you know what Jimmy G is. Like, that's the thing. You know what Jimmy G is.
Yeah, you do.
He's a game manager.
But
all we've been hearing is this guy's got great raw potential. He's going to be a stud if he can figure it out. He's got the tools to be a Patrick Mahomes type.
But can we wait a couple weeks to find out?
He's a physical He's got physical attributes that work in this NFL world now. Well, I get it that it was a monsoon, and it's not ideal that it was his third career start, and not any of his three starts he hasn't looked good either. And that was when it was sunny too, when he was playing against the Texans last year, and he was playing in sunny Arizona too. He didn't look that great in any of those games. I'm just saying, there's a reason why this guy, all we've been hearing is he's having troubles throughout camp, and Jimmy G's still there, and then we see it in week one. I get it. It was a total monsoon, but you know what? Justin Fields still had to play. Chicago Bears still had to play the game. They figured out a way to win the game. And you're telling me that Chicago, one of the worst probably rosters in the NFL, talent-wise, compared to the 49ers, you're going to give me the excuse of rain? I mean, Chicago won.
That Justin Fields outplayed Trey Lance.
What's the excuse? That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say.
I don't know. I just think San Francisco did not handle the environment, the climate, everything that involved the game. They did not.
That's a bad loss.
They lost their starting running back early in the game. He's out. So I think
so that's going to make it even more difficult for this team to move forward. I mean, one of their main focal points on offense, Kittle's dealing with an injury.
Kittle was out. I just think the weather, the whole situation, it was not ideal. They did not play well. I will say that did not play well. The Bears, listen, it wasn't like they blew them out.
I get it. It's just the way they were up 10-0, and then they just couldn't.
The way the Bears scored. The first touchdown, Justin Fields is running for his dear life and then throws the ball across the field, which you're not supposed to do. Finds a wide open guy and he sneaks in for a touchdown. So it wasn't like, hey, we moved down the field.
All we've been hearing with Trey Lance is he's got the same type of tools.
Well, I'll say the Bears were lucky more than they were good. But guess what?
Yeah, of course. I think it was just more of San Fran.
It's week one. You look at all the games. We can break them down. We can laugh and talk about them. The Steelers game, Burrow has 5 turnovers, 4 picks or whatever, fumble. And then the Bengals almost had a chance to win. They should have won. Should have won. 29-yard missed field goal, extra point blocked. The Bengals last year against the Packers. That's another. There's a lot of things you can break down in week one. There's a lot of ugliness in week one. Amazing weekend of week one. Great games. That 1 o'clock window, the last 4 minutes was, the Saints kick field goal, the Bengals game, the Colts and Texans game was, the Bears game, all those games came down to the wire, which was great as a fan. You know what I mean? And then the 4 o'clocks, other than the Giants game, all the games were duds, the 4 o'clocks. The Chargers looked like a much better team. Kansas City and Mahomes look like they're ready for Super Bowl 50, whatever, 6, 7, 8. They're ready to go. He doesn't lose in September. And all he does is throw touchdown passes. Arizona looks exactly like the team we saw last year, Trev, at the last game of the season in the playoffs. They look like in a disarray.
Mm-hmm. The NFC West as a whole this weekend was definitely the big losers. The Rams.
Yeah, Seattle's the first place. They're 1-0 and everyone's 0-3.
Yeah, I would say those are the NFC West definitely took a big L this weekend. Just disappointing performances, and Seattle's good for Seattle last night. Terrible on Denver's time management, clock management decisions. But there's a lot to go. A lot to go. There's 17 weeks left. We have a lot more football. But what I've seen from week one is maybe these teams should consider start playing a little more preseason football, because the chemistry of these new look offenses, even the Raiders, teams like that, just didn't look right. Maybe they should start considering playing just a little preseason.
Justin Jefferson football. And Kirk Cousins in playing the preseason. They look pretty damn good. You don't need preseason when you have the in-game scrimmages beforehand.
Denver, Green Bay.
They have, but guess what?
Dallas. I don't know. I just named 4 teams that look god-awful.
But their starters played not in the preseason games. They have those games in between. When the teams come down, they have the inter-squad scrimmages. Yeah, those are live game action. When you watch the NFL Network, the starters in that it's more realistic and better competition. You get better work there than you do in the preseason game.
I'm just saying you should be, if you're a new look team, then you should be at least having some of your starters play. Just try to get some sort of chemistry going.
Dallas. Listen, we knew Dallas was going to stink. I didn't realize Tampa Bay's defense was going to slap them around like they're the little brother. Their offensive line is bad, Trev. They cannot protect Dak. Zeke is a shell of himself, and they don't have any weapons. They went from having all these weapons and the best team with all these skill players to no one.
Hey, I ain't complaining.
Oh, hell no. That was a great day.
I ain't complaining. Yep. New York Giants for the first time since 2016. I know we didn't get into the New York Giants at all, but that was one of the more surprising victories of the weekend, too, as Brian Daboll, as they like to say, I don't know if you saw the New York Post.
Yeah, I saw it.
Daboll's of steel. The balls of steel.
Yeah. Well, it only happened because we had the best player on the field at the time.
The best player on the field on the team in the entire game was not Mr. King
because
Henry.
The Titans,
it was Mr. Saquon Barkley.
The Titans actually defended that play perfectly. It was just because Saquon was just a better player than anyone else on the field.
We'll talk more about the New York Giants as they have some. Well, we'll see what happens. They got the Carolina Panthers this week. We'll be talking more week 2 of college football or week 3 of college football and the NFL. We'll see what happens. But Buffalo and Kansas City right now look like head and shoulders above everyone else. Got some great Monday night games. Got 2 Monday night games this weekend.
Yeah, I was wondering why they didn't do it last night, but
I can't wait. I don't care. I'm excited to get the Titans and Bills, and then you get the Vikings and Eagles. That should be a hell of a game.
That should be a great game, and a lot of scoring, I would suspect, especially with those two teams. And then what was it? The Bills are playing who on? Oh, Titans.
Titans, yeah.
Oh, that's a good. That'll be a Titans beat them last year at home, so that should be a great
Titans
game.
they're going to Buffalo, so that crowd's going to be ruckus. All in all, a fantastic, a stupendous, and exciting and exhilarating weekend of NFL and college football. A lot of upsets, a lot of sloppiness, but like Ted said, it's only week 1. Let's not jump the gun. But I did say on Thursday, good luck to the rest of the NFL trying to. Oh, Ted, you want me to wait until week 1? I still take the Buffalo Bills as the best team. Kansas City is the only team that will give me maybe a discussion. But the Buffalo Bills running wild on you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Keys of the City. We'll see you next episode. We're out.
You are now in tune to the Keys to the City podcast.